Oh, wait. Hello and welcome to those who are joining us now and those who are going to join us and watch this video at a later time. And happy holidays. I am Curtis Morrison and...
Hi, my name is Jana Al-Akhras. I'm an associate attorney at Morrison Urena.
I'm also with Morrison Urena. So today's episode of Let's Talk Immigration, we are going to cover a few topics. We're going to cover what's called a direct file I-130. I want to talk about that. We're going to talk about a development in a case called Naveed versus Blinken, which is a case where we represent 10 Pakistani families suing the State Department over delays at U.S. Embassy Islamabad. And we're going to talk about Title 42. Mm-hmm. And we might talk about other things too. I don't know. And then we'll go to question and answers. So if you're on Facebook and YouTube, you can post your questions there and they show up here where I can see them. And then in the Telegram channel, if you post them there, our helpers will share them to where we'll see them. And we'll get to those, but we won't be answering questions for the next 10, 15 minutes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, first thing I was going to talk about was direct file I-130, okay? This is also sometimes called a local file. And I'm going to share my screen. Am I going to do it? I'm sorry, it's taking so long. Present. So, Chapter 3 of the Policy Manual for USCIS allows, in very limited circumstances, where a U.S. citizen can file a petition directly with the State Department instead of going through USCIS. But they have to be exceptional circumstances, okay? And I know many of you all can't see this. I'm trying to figure out how to fix that.
That looks good.
Okay. So here are the exceptional circumstances where you can do that, because this could be turn what's sometimes being a 1 to 5 year process. It can make it into a few month process. So it's very good, okay? Military emergencies where a U.S. service member is abroad, and medical emergencies where either the petitioner or the beneficiary is facing urgent medical emergency, needs a surgery. That's a big one. Threats to personal safety. This means that where the beneficiary is located, they are in danger, okay? And the embassies will ask you to support that. You can't just say, I don't know, it's like really dangerous where my beneficiary is. You have to show, is there a police report? What happened, you know? Close to aging out. This is a good one. It almost always works. This is where the beneficiary is turning 21 and it's going to change to a different visa category that could cause the beneficiary not to get a visa for 10 more years or 20 more years, depending on their country, if they don't get it soon. So that close to aging out is a good reason. Petitioner has recently naturalized. This one, you would think a lot of people could use it because it happens a lot, especially with Pakistanis and Indians. However, they put an extra requirement on here. The reason petitioner has recently naturalized makes it eligible for a direct file is because when a petitioner naturalizes, the spouse beneficiary, their category changes from F2A to IR1 or from FX to R1. And then because of that, the derivative children fall off and they don't have a path. So the direct file is for the children. It actually doesn't have it listed here, but the one of the reasons why a lot of families are not able to do the direct file is because the petitioner has to go to the embassy. And if your petitioner is in the United States, they can't go to the embassy, right? So it's not available for all, but for petitioners who are going back and forth or have the means to make a trip, it could be a path. The thing is, you can't decide to do this after you've already filed your petition with USCIS. Once you file a petition with USCIS, it's too late to do a direct file. Adoption of a child or short notice relocation. U.S. citizen had a job working in Mexico and now all of a sudden gets a job in the U.S. That's grounds for a direct file for their spouse and children. So, and discretion. So in other words, these are not the only ways. It says there that it's not exhaustive. That means there's other things that qualify. So as long as I'm talking about direct file, let me pull up. Here you go. Here's an example. We received, it's funny, it's dated today. Oh, I printed it today. We received it on Monday for a case that we're working a direct file on. And it really like lays out the instructions well to where I thought people would see it. I redacted our client's name, of course. But it's two different processes, even though it's at the embassy. So before the relative can get the interview, the petitioner needs to do an interview, and then the relative comes back and does a different interview. Okay. So with these times where visa backlogs are preventing families from being reunited, this is a really good tool to get around that, but you have to know about the tool and you have to get with an immigration attorney early, right? You can't wait until after your petition's filed. Any questions about that, Jenna? Did I cover it?
No, I don't think so. I think it's really important when you have different tools at your disposal to make sure that you're consulting people who know about these types of things, because it can be a very complicated and convoluted process. And you don't want to, do something with the wrong attorney or, by like a partial method and then have to correct those types of mistakes down the line. So it's just better to get the advice that you need before embarking on things like this.
One of the most frustrating things for us as immigration attorneys is sometimes people think it's better to do things on their own and they come to us after they make mistakes to fix it.
Yeah.
Fixing immigration problems is so expensive and difficult and sometimes cannot be done.
Right. But I think it was pretty clear. So
okay. People are tired of me talking. So what's going on with Title 42? That's something we visit on every episode. Sure. Where's that at right now?
Yeah. So a little bit of a recap on what Title 42 is. In the early days of the pandemic and coronavirus, the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention issued a public health order that officials said aimed to stop the spread of COVID-19. And this order allowed authorities to expel migrants at U.S. land borders. And that policy is known as Title 42 for the portion of the U.S. code that allows the CDC to issue it. So migrants under Title 42 were expelled to their home countries or into Mexico. And under this policy, authorities expelled around 2.5 million people in less than 3 years. And that's a very, very difficult statistic to stomach as somebody who, people who work in this space, because as we know, or, hopefully that it is the right of any individual to come to a border of the United States and seek asylum if they feel that they are in danger in their home country for a multitude of reasons. And so what Title 42 did was essentially remove the due process capacity of an individual to claim asylum, because it just immediately sent them back to their home country or to Mexico. And that creates a bit of a crisis. And then in addition, there's another layer of that it was being implemented discriminately. So there were people from the global south who were far more likely to be subject to Title 42, where, migrants from Ukraine, as the Russia-Ukraine conflict waged on, were not subject to it in the same way. And then you had similar things happening in the cases of Venezuelan attempted asylees. And so there was a lawsuit intended to show that this was that Title 42 was a needless use, like it was not necessary anymore, because the pandemic had progressed to a point that people that we had been able to address these types of things, as far as how to limit the pandemic, how to limit the spread of the virus, like vaccines were far more readily accessible. And so the justification behind Title 42 was no longer viable realistically. And so there was a lawsuit, and then there was an order. And the idea was that on December 21st, which happens to be today, that it would be lifted. But the same judge who put that order in also has now issued a stay until, I believe, December 27th. They're attempting to, the justification that, as I understood it, was a limitation on just so to not overcrowd the border, particularly in El Paso. They, in Texas, released the Texas National Guard in order to not allow people to cross the border. And now what we have is a situation where there were people who, had been following the news and had been following this, knowing that the border was supposed to be open on the 21st, that this Title 42 was not going to be a barrier anymore. And so you had people lined up at the border who were then told that they had to leave and that entry into the United States would be illegal for them. So this essentially just, brings up a whole host of issues. We're keeping our eye on it because, the Biden administration has over and over throughout, the presidency, but throughout this administration has promised to, remove Title 42 and not make it a barrier for asylum seekers anymore. And then in the same breath has also defended it. And we kind of find that to be just a continuation of the promises that were made prior to this administration, the idea to roll back some Trump era policies, and then the discrepancy here in defending those Trump era policies. And so, at Morrison Arena, us and our team believe very wholeheartedly that this type of discrimination-based policy making, especially when it happens to impact people from the global south, is just not a viable way to, especially with the idea of immigration reform as a hot button topic right now, and the idea of making this process more equitable for all those involved. So that's what's happening currently with Title 42. And it's just it's upsetting, because everyone does have the right to seek asylum. You have the right to seek asylum. If you come to a border of the United States, it is your right to seek asylum if you believe that you are going to face persecution by returning to your home country based on a number of things that can include race, religion, political affiliation, and the it's an attempt to limit yourself from the possibility of receiving torture in your home country, and the idea that your country wouldn't be able to protect that. And so that is where Title 42 is now. We do a lot of asylum cases, and I currently have a few asylum cases, and I can tell you very clearly that if something like Title 42, which allows and uses the justification of the pandemic to implement discriminatory tactics, is something that it's very heartbreaking to see. And we're hoping that that is something that the Biden administration takes seriously in removing that barrier.
Yeah, I would like to see that as well. It's crazy because Biden actually said that he was going to remove that a long time ago. And it never, like I think you said, it never really did stop COVID. That was crazy.
It's the same thing that we saw with the idea of reuniting families, that somehow certain people who were limited from the ability to reunite with their families, they were going to be people who would spread COVID more likely than other visitor visas that were going to enter the country. And so the idea here is that you can't pick and choose when to use the pandemic for the policy reasons that you're attempting to, pass through. So,
I think DOJ and State Department would disagree. They can try that all they want, right? So, which is a good segue into Naveed versus Blinken. We haven't talked about Naveed versus Blinken, have we?
I don't believe so, but I'd love to hear you talk about it.
Okay, so this is a case that we filed on behalf of 10 U.S. citizens and their Pakistani spouses awaiting interviews at U.S. Embassy Islamabad. On the 13th, we filed a motion for preliminary injunction. And yesterday, two developments. One development is, I'm not going to bring it up, but basically we filed a lawsuit under the Freedom of Information Act based on a request I'd made back in November for information about staffing at Islamabad, because there's a question: why was Islamabad understaffed as Kabul closed and the surge was predicted? Everybody knew that there would be a surge, yet Islamabad was not staffed for it. So why did that happen? So that's what I'm going to try to find out. But what this image is right here is the government's opposition to our motion for preliminary injunction. Apparently, they don't want the court to give us an injunction. And they have really gone outside of what the government normally argues and made this outrageous argument that even the Trump administration never made. 4 years, we litigated immigration cases, delay cases under the Trump administration, and never did we see this. The department does not have a mandatory non-discretionary duty to schedule a visa interview. Okay, our plaintiffs are spouses of U.S. citizens who have already paid their visa applications. Okay, they've already gone onto the SEAC and they've paid the application fee. So how can the United States government, Secretary Blinken, how can you say that you do not have a duty to schedule them for a visa interview? I mean, that's so obnoxious. It's arrogant. What kind of business is this? It reminds me of what's that Trump business? Didn't he have some kind of Trump University? This sounds like Trump University. Thank you for your money, but we have no obligation of doing anything for you, right? So I want to call this Blinken University. So anyway, I have a week. Now I have 6 days to prepare a reply for this ridiculous opposition to our motion, and I'm really going to enjoy it. Jana, I know your sister is going to help me with it because she's really angry about this. Some of the arguments in here as well. Basically, the State Department relied a lot on arguments that they made in September against the diversity visa selectees. I don't know if they were just being lazy or not smart, but the diversity visa process is very different than the process for spouses of U.S. citizens. Right. Congress has twice said that, not once, but twice, Congress has said that the State Department has to create a system to make sure that spouses of U.S. citizens, their applications are processed within 30 days. So the idea that they're arguing they don't even have to give them interviews, pretty crazy.
Right. And these are arguments we're seeing pretty consistently at this point.
Yeah, but we hadn't seen them in this context.
Right.
Spouses of U.S. citizens. This is the first time I've done a group case for spouses of U.S. citizens since we were doing lawsuits for waivers of the Muslim ban. And so it just really shocked me to see this. So I think we have a lot of questions, don't we?
I think we have some, yeah.
We have some. Okay. Let's switch to that. And sure. Looks great on red. Thank you. It's a little big, but I'll grow into it. Good evening, James. And a question from Telegram. Jajum. Hello, Dijun. I'm in the Good Luck lawsuit. We are citizens of Russia. We are now in Turkey with our family and are doing a residence permit. We hope for a good outcome of the lawsuit. How is the U.S. Embassy Turkey loaded now, or is it better to do it in Greece? A lot to unpack there.
Right.
First, I'm happy that you are safe in Turkey and you're not in a war zone. That's good. For good luck, all good luck plaintiffs, I know this question is going to come up a lot today. We're waiting on the outcome of the appeal. We don't know when that will be. We know that the court has not forgotten about us. So hopefully it'll be soon.
Yeah.
So this question you ask about, like whether or not Ankara, the U.S. Embassy in Turkey, is loaded now, is it better to do it in Greece? Ankara is a very busy embassy. Whether or not it's loaded now is not relevant, though. Mm-hmm. What's relevant is whether or not the embassy is resuming full services and has a backlog at the time that our visas are being issued. And that's not going to happen until we beat the appeal. So let's not ask about what's happening now because it's not even relevant. But like we can guess in the future, Ankara will always be a busy embassy because not only does it have the visa applicants in Turkey, and there are many diversity visa applicants in Turkey, many are plaintiffs and good luck, but it also has probably more than a third of the ones from Iran, and then also from some other countries, some from Iraq. So if you had to choose any embassy, that's not the one I would choose. Greece, maybe a little better, but I don't think you're going to have, I don't know if you will have the option of interviewing in Greece. The reason I say that is because we don't know how the State Department, they say they've already deployed the DV 2021 cases, 2020 and 2021 cases. What they mean is they've already sent them to the embassy. We don't know what embassy your case has been sent to. I've asked them several times. They will not answer me.
Yeah.
So for all we know, your case could be already, it could be sent to Moscow. It could be in Warsaw. It could be in Ankara already. Or is Ankara Greece? Okay. Sometimes I get that wrong. Okay.
Ankara is in Turkey.
Ankara is in Turkey, but the Greece embassy is at Accra?
Yes.
Okay. Doesn't feel right. Anyway, I've never been to Greece. I need to go there. So I can't answer the question. The answers you want right now, we don't have. We will not have until they roll on the appeal, and then we will know more about what options will be available. I think he already said that. Thank you, Faisal, again. Anonymous. Oh, no. DV 2020 winners dream every day of seeing our dream come true. If the lawyers do not rest for our victory, we will not stop supporting them until we get DV 2020 and 21. Go for the victory. Thank you for your support, Anonymous. We will keep fighting as long as we can. TC, you say, what about DV 2020? Okay. You're talking about the Gomez class, and for Gomez class members, we've already won summary judgment. We've won that lawsuit, but the Biden administration appealed. We have to wait for the outcome of the appeal before any of those DV 2020 visas can be issued. Those 9,095 DV 2020 visas. So we don't know yet. We have to wait for the outcome of the appeal. DV 2021. Amico, you didn't tell me if you were a plaintiff, and you didn't tell me what embassy you were waiting on. So I don't even know if you have a path forward. If you're a good luck plaintiff in DV 2021, we're waiting for the appeal. Alexander. I initially learned that the judges had up to 3 months to determine the outcome of the lawsuit. Good luck in other cases. 3 months have elapsed. What should we expect now, anytime? Okay. So, Jenna, the reason Alexander thought this is because I shared a story that was written by a former justice of the Circuit Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, where he said, judges on this court, we made it a goal to issue our opinions within 3 months. Okay. There's a few reasons why this is different from what you thought it meant. One is he's no longer a judge on that circuit. Second, it was only a goal. That means they didn't always meet it. A lot of times opinions take more than 3 months. Okay. But here's what's important. My words, I did not say it takes 3 months to determine the outcome. I shared that story and said that's what he said their goal was. Okay, we don't know how long it's going to take, and I'm not going to guess anymore because every time I guess, people take it to mean something else. Faisal says, does the embassy's capacity matter while implementation of the order are just up to the KACC? What is the best embassy in North Africa for DV processing? Faisal, I assume because you don't say that you're a DV 2023 selectee. What did he say before? He said, I look good in red. Okay. The embassy's capacity matter with the implementation of the order. You're talking about an order. You're not a DV 2023, or it's up to KCC. I need to know what DV year you are. So if you could put that in the comments, I'll find it and we'll come back to you. Any news about Good Luck lawsuit? Nope. Waiting on the answer for the appeal. What about DV 2021, sir? I don't know if you're a plaintiff in Good Luck or what embassy you're waiting on. So I don't even know if your future, if you have a DV 2021 future, you're going to have to give me more information in these questions, y'all. W, the answer is yes. That's a joke. Jana, laugh. Okay, don't. Okay. What about DV 2020? Great group of people waiting on appeals court. Okay. What about DV 2020? Okay, nobody can say what about anymore because what about's not really a question. Especially when you say what about DV 2021 and you don't say if you're a plaintiff. Understand, DV 2021, a lot of DV 2021 selectees, their journeys are over. If you were not a Good Luck plaintiff and you were not a Go plaintiff and you were not protected by the order called Ray by Judge Chutkan, if you were not waiting for one of those embassies, your DV journey's over. So giving me the least amount of information is hard for me to answer your question. U.S. Embassy in Liberia is ready to cooperate with any positive decision in our favor because there are some delay months ago. James, that's not a question, but that I hope so. I hope Monrovia is helpful.
I think the question was, is the U.S. Embassy in Liberia ready to cooperate
okay.
with any
positive? So it's a question for the U.S. Embassy in Liberia. It's not a question for me. I don't know. I would expect so. Overall, Monrovia is not a bad embassy. Okay, so we had some issues at one time with a little quirk, but I think that they will cooperate. We'll see. What is the current status of Wilson Sonny? Oh, good. Is there any chance to see any progress anytime soon? I said, oh, good, because you asked about this. So the status of Wilson and Sonny is that the judge denied our motion for preliminary injunction. And so he said, you know, you're challenging these policies, the tiered approach that the government rescinded. So you need new challenges if you want to keep this lawsuit alive. So we filed a motion to amend our complaint. I can't remember. Did you work on that, Jana?
Yeah.
And made very compelling allegations. And I thought that Judge Kogan would say, yes, you can amend your complaint. And I know he's a busy judge and has a lot on his docket, but for whatever reason, he has not issued an order on that motion. and it's been several months.
Right.
So we are waiting on Judge Kogan's order on that motion. But I'm glad you brought it up because of something funny. One of the things that Judge Kogan ruled in when he denied our motions for preliminary injunction. Let's see if I can find it. Yes, I found it. Present. You may remember this if you read his order. He said Congress wanted immediate relative visas to be prioritized. And so that's his way of telling us Sunny plaintiffs who were family preference visa applicants at the time, F2As, his way of saying, we can't take care of you all because Congress said they wanted immediate relative visas prioritized. He said that because the government convinced him that that's what Congress wanted. I'm bringing your attention to this because we've had a weird development. In Naveed, the government is now arguing the opposite, that that's not what Congress wanted. We were just kidding. So they bluffed and, punked the judge. I don't know. So I've been meaning to talk to Raphael about a way to go back to Judge Kogan and tattle. I'm not really sure. There's not a motion. When we go to law school, there's this class called civil procedure, and they teach you the tools of the court. And there's no tool that says motion to point out how the government is lying. But that's the tool that we need. We need a tool to say, remember that thing they told you? Now they're arguing the opposite in another court. So anyway, it just shows how the Biden administration is not as immigrant friendly as they are portrayed in the media. Any thoughts, Jana?
No, I mean, I think it's difficult, particularly with these types of cases, especially with Sonny Wilson and Santos, because it did end up being a consolidated.
Right. I will say,
case.
Well, actually, it's not consolidated yet. They're all with the same judge, but our motion to amend the complaint included a motion to consolidate.
Motion to consolidate. That's what I meant. Yeah.
And he hasn't even ruled on that. So they're not technically consolidated. They're related is what they're called. So yeah. I just found statistics, though, that you deserve as a Sonny plaintiff. Between Sonny and Santos, there are 108 families who have not had their visas issued. And in Wilson, there are 32 families that have not had their visas issued. And for those of you still waiting, you might be saying, well, how did the others get their visas issued? Some of them, it was just naturally, they finally made it in the queue. Some of them filed mandamus lawsuits. Some who were F2A were able to naturalize. Some who were F2A were able to naturalize, but then found out that they didn't have a path for their children. So it didn't really help because now they're waiting on visas for their children.
Yeah. I think what's definitely difficult about this case is that I believe the initial filing was in September of 2021, if I'm not mistaken.
For Sonny, yes. But here's what's crazy. Every Sonny plaintiff and every Santos plaintiff was a Jacob plaintiff in January of 2021. Right. So they've been with us for coming up on, I can't even do this math, 2 years?
Definitely, yeah. We're about to go into 2023.
Next month. So I understand why Ivan and his fellow co-plaintiffs are ready to burn my house down. I understand, but it's not me. Hopefully, Judge Kogan will issue an order soon that will give us closure. I realize some of you feel like you're being held hostage in that situation. You could always dismiss your claims and file a mandamus lawsuit either with us or with somebody else. You always have that option. Suraj, is the recapture of DB 2021 an omnibus spending bill, which is in the biggest Senate? I don't think so. I know that there was a hope that might be possible, but that hope was really alive before the outcome of the election. And I think they'll be happy. I'd be surprised if they passed an omnibus bill. I think they're probably not going to be able to pull it off, and the government will close. I don't know. So I don't know. I haven't read it. It's 4,000 pages. I didn't look at it.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to do it either.
You're not going to. Come on. I don't think I'm going to either. I haven't got a chance to, and I'm not going to read it. DV 2020. As I've said before, we're waiting on the outcome of the appeal. DV 2020 Kennedy plaintiff. You're in the same situation. You're a Gomez class member, unless you're one of the 5 Kennedy plaintiffs who had been issued visas that expired. And so you have to wait until the outcome of the appeal. Hope this 2023 New Year is good for 2020-21 plaintiff. I hope that too. I do not want to be in the year 2067 talking about DV 2020. I'll tell you that. Ivan is asking the same question that was asked above by the same Ivan. Hopefully we'll know something soon. Okay, Damaris, it looks like you're grateful for our law firm. Thank you. Siraj, I don't know the answer to whether or not recapture of DV 2021 is an omnibus spending bill. By the way, that's called Ming 1, the Ming 1 amendment, but I don't think it's there. Prashant said, hi, Curtis. Hi, Prashant. Do you have any idea about when they're going to vote for appropriation bill? I know this is out of the Faisal, I don't follow Congress because they don't ever give me what I want. Even when I lobby for it. I'll give you an example. Representative Salazar out of Florida released a few days ago an immigration bill proposal that would do a whole bunch of reform. And I immediately emailed her team with a suggestion where instead of, they're trying to solve all the backlog problems. And I was like, well, here's one suggestion. Make state issue what they're allotted by Congress. So if Congress says, hey, you have 226,000 family preference visas, add one sentence in the law that says you have to issue them all. If there's people waiting on them, like our Sonny Santos Wilson plaintiffs, they have to issue you visas before they let them roll over to employment categories. So that's a proposal that I made to her. I sent an email and then I forgot about it because people have been trying to reform immigration for as long as I've been alive, and I'm so old. So just you can't follow everything on that.
Well, it's difficult too when you're trying to reform immigration while keeping the very minimal protections that we currently have, right? Because it's kind of a 5 steps backwards, 2 steps forward situation. So you have people who are attempting to do complete overhauls and changing the legal landscape as we know it. And people are so concerned, rightfully so, with maintaining the privileges and the duties and the rights that we already have, that the idea of looking forward to do anything even more progressive starts to be a little bit of an uphill battle. But that's part of the work that we're doing.
Right. Actually, I got to know that a lot during the Eagle Act debate that happened over the last few weeks, but months also, and years. And I think the best reform is one that accommodates people that have an existing path so that they don't lose that path. And that's difficult to do without adding more visas, or more green cards, right? So I may have got lost. Thank you for all the nice messages. How is the DV 2021 non-plaintiff? Hi, Hulk. This depends upon what embassy that they were waiting on September 30th, 2021. because there was a judge, Judge Chutkin, who gave relief for DV 2021 selectees who were waiting on certain embassies, the Schengen area, China, Brazil. I shouldn't have tried to remember them because I'm not going to. Anyway, I can't answer your question without knowing what embassy you're waiting on. Alexander asked, how many good luck plaintiffs are in Monrovia percentage? There are concerns of how many there are. If we have a positive ruling, plaintiffs could be selected. Alexander, you can't ask me that in live and think that I have it off the top of my head. Send me an email. I know we have a lot of librarian plaintiffs, and I hope as many of them get visas as possible. Dr. Solomon asked, till when will we be waiting for DV 2021 appeal? I don't know. No one can know that. Federal judges do not have deadlines. Faisal asks, is there any option to file a single lawsuit in case we lost the Gomez appeal? I don't know what it called in law, so how much it costs. Faisal, no, that's not an option. And let me tell you why it's not an option. The case law is settled that a DV selectee does not have a live case or controversy after the end of the fiscal year. We're trying to push that case law, and recently we heard a judge during the hearing in September, actually on the appeal, that said he didn't understand why that was, so maybe in the future that might change. But for the most part, it would be throwing away your money. It'd be like a very small chance of success. And plus, you're not even saying a lawsuit based on what would be the grievance? What did the government do wrong? Because if you can't bring a lawsuit based on the same thing, there's a Latin phrase for that. Let's see if Jana knows it.
I know what you're saying. It's
res something.
Res judicata.
Yeah, res judicata, maybe.
Yeah.
It's the same issue. You can't bring a lawsuit on the same issue before another judge, and no, you can't do it. So basically, you're in this boat with this group of people. Don't think you can get in a lifeboat and get out because it's not going to work. We're all in the same boat, okay? The Gomez boat, I guess. I will say one thing. If we lose the Gomez appeal, it's possible that we could appeal it either to a full panel of the circuit court or to the Supreme Court. We could try to get what's called certiorari, where we get permission from the Supreme Court. But we wouldn't make a decision like that now. We would wait and see what the Circuit Court of Appeals said in their opinion. Because if it's a well-reasoned opinion, you don't want to appeal it. And also, the Supreme Court is not a bunch of Curtis lovers. Yeah. So. Oh my goodness. It's true. Next month is last chance for Gomez case or Congress. No more pain. Anis, I do not think that is true. I did not say that. But I understand the pain, and even though I'm not personally experiencing the same pain you have, I understand that it is frustrating to be in limbo, and we are hoping to get closure soon. James answers the question of Alexander. There are 147 plaintiffs in Monrovia. Okay, that's Liberia. So that concludes all of our questions. I don't know, Jenna, did you have anything else you want to talk about today? Or are we going to end early for the holidays?
Not particularly. I think the conversation we had in the beginning about direct filing is really interesting and really important. I think just as always, when you have these types of questions, your best bet is to consult an attorney who has experience in this space. It is much easier to solve a problem without already having a hurdle in your way. And so that's just, I think, generalized advice in that way. For those who are asylum seekers, keeping an eye on Title 42, and that's kind of a moving target at this point. There was an anticipation today that people were going to be able to access the border, and unfortunately, that's been temporarily withheld. But really, other than that, I mean, we're always available in multiple streams, so it's not just on Wednesdays.
One thing I meant to bring up, and then we can go. The upcoming January visa bulletin is out. So for diversity visa selectees, that means they now know who's current in January and February. This is January. This is February. So if you have a case number, diversity visa case number, I know you can't read that. I'm sorry. Diversity visa case number in Africa, that's all the way up to 35,000, unless you're in these 3 countries, Algeria, Egypt, Morocco, your case number could be current. If you're one of these 5 DVs in the Bahamas, you're still not current. Sorry. So anyway, check out the new visa bulletin. Now, since we're talking about the visa bulletin, I want to say something really fast about the family preference categories. These dates, if they look familiar, these are the same dates in the last visa bulletin. They have not moved. Mm-hmm. And, oh no, I wasn't supposed to do that. Oh. I was not, when you click something to open, it doesn't supposed to open in the share screen. Okay. So where are these notes that Benon put up? Basically, the family preference category has not moved in 15 months. So do not expect it to move before the Biden administration changes their policies and starts issuing visas to family preference categories. I mean, there's several embassies like Islamabad and Mumbai that are not really issuing that many family preference visas at all. If they're not issuing the visas to the people that are waiting, the visa bulletin is not going to move. So the Biden administration is just like not prioritizing family preference categories, and so the visa bulletin is not moving. Sorry about that. Anyway, there might be a lawsuit about that soon. We're talking about it. So I think we're going to end early, as there's a thing here that says happy holidays, everyone. I think that's our cue.
Yeah.
Everybody have happy holidays, and I'll see you again next Wednesday. Okay. Thank you, Jenna, for joining me.
Of course. Bye, everyone.